elevator. We are always first with something.
And we're always going up, right? Especially when we're in the elevator.
We show things you don't see on TV. I've never seen an interview in an elevator.
Let's go up to the third floor.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we? What are your thoughts?
Well, you make some comments on the SRA law not being applied to certain buildings.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking if the RTA, which is the Residential Tenancy Act, does not apply to, or does not grant, or its law doesn't apply to the tenants there, then it also does not apply to the landlord. And if the tenant isn't afforded the protection of the act, neither is the landlord.
Going down?
Which means,
Everybody going down?
which I think means
Okay, so
that that the Residential Tenancy Act, as it is, seems to favor the property owner or the landlord. And if it's not governed by the RTA for protection of the consumer or the tenant, that means equality is paramount before the law, which means that if the tenant isn't covered, then the landlord isn't covered. Now we find that the landlord is covered and it seems to be favored to him, but this act really is in his favor, in the landlord.
Isn't that what the agreement is, that usually when you go for a hearing, the landlord is favored?
That's right. So if the Residential Tenancy Act is not covering these people in SROs, it also strips away and does not afford the landlord any protection. So they're weak and vulnerable. They do not have the shield anymore because the RTA does not apply in the matter. So it means evictions and actually maybe some civil disobedience would become a commercial matter for the court, and they can't move until there's an award of the court. And it'll have to be a judge, and it would have to be a small claims. You have to go through that rather than being ground through some kind of tribunal where there's a binding arbitration, but they would have to pay for it, they would have to mount a defense, and they would have to know there is no act that's going to protect them other than plain old commerce.
So are you in favor of the RTA?
I'm in favor of an act for members of government to govern them. I think men and women are free. I don't think that we're acting, we're living. So we need to have living wills rather than acts. So I have a different point of view, right? And we need to have living wills. I'm not playing a role, so there's no act that governs me.
But just for the record, the RTA Act does apply to a lot of hotels. They're being ignored by a lot of landlords.
Yeah.
Then what you have to do is either go to arbitration.
Yeah.
And usually I've done that. The landlord still denies the arbitration ruling.
Yeah.
Then you can go to civil court.
Yes.
As you say, you can make a complaint and register it. That takes at least 3 months to a year. So the landlord still wins. In effect, de facto, he wins. Or you can go to Pivot, write him a letter, and the landlord still ignores that. Yeah. Then you can go to a local community or